It to the British Grand Prix in the NPL. We'll hopefully only have one attempt. We only have 4 drivers to crash here, so I don't think we'll have any restarts. But we will see if there's any collisions on the opening lap between Tice and Brett, as has been the case before in this race. This is the 4th race we've ever had here in the 4th season, a race that has been on the calendar ever since season 1 and has produced some pretty good races, including last season, where a titanic battle for the lead ended in collision and an intentional murder, literal vehicular manslaughter through Brooklands from me into Brett, which is why I have decided to set out this race, among many other reasons. But here we go. The 5 lights coming on in front of the drivers. It is Tice on pole, Brett alongside, lights out, and away we go. And it's a very good start from Brett, who manages to come alongside Tice already going into the first corner. He has the inside line. Will he stay there though as it heads into turn 1? No, he doesn't quite manage to keep the inside, but now Tice keeps the lead. Will Brett manage to do anything here? Brett goes down the inside going into the first section of the lap now. Manages to make contact with Tice, but doesn't quite get alongside him enough. Dan goes to the inside as well. Dan manages to make the move stick, but Brett has the outside line. Will he have the better exit speed? Yes, he will. But Dan has the inside line going into the Wellington straight. We're on board with Brett now as he heads down here. Going down the back straight, he's going to have a huge run. He's going to go to the inside of Dan now, on the inside, both on medium tyres, as Dan wraps around the outside but goes a bit wide, goes off the track, and that will give Brett second place once again, as Tice has gone already 7 tenths up the road, 8 tenths to make that as he comes out the corner. But Brett gets a pretty good exit as Ian now alongside. Ian and Dan alongside going to cups. These are critical corners for this Grand Prix. Ian's going to try again, this time on the inside of cups, and they don't touch because it's not Silverstone 2021. Dan goes wide, however, and Ian has backed out. Brett is already a second behind Tice. He'll need to pick up the pace if he wants to win this race, but Brett just doesn't seem to quite have the pace yet. But I do believe he could be able to pick up the pace now as he heads down the straight. Will he use some ERS? Let's see how much ERS he has. I'm not going to tell you one because that would be unfair. Your position change. What is it? I guess the most interesting will be tyres, I guess. At the moment it would be position change.
You're still a half a second behind.
Yeah, still very close between the cars. The battle for third place is the most interesting on the track right now, but it is Brett who has just gained a lot of time in the final sector there, using some of the ERS, I believe, to gain some time. And Tice is also going to be using some ERS, I believe. Dan goes wide, and that is going to give Ian a huge opportunity now to make a move here as he heads into this corner. Dan goes in deep as well. This is a very good chance for Ian to make a move as he goes right behind it. Only 4 tenths between them. Make that 3 tenths. A bad exit for Dan as well. Ian had to back out there, and that has massively compromised his exit. Was that strategic blocking there from Dan on the exit of the corner? That will not be investigated, of course, but still. Good racing here between the two of them. Ian will have to wait a little bit longer to have another opportunity at Dan here in this lap, but Dan has been struggling this weekend so far.
Ian, you have driven every single season on this track that you have been in the league.
That's fair, but Ian, it does seem to have a little bit more pace than Dan here. Dan has been running these really wide lines through the corners that just doesn't quite manage to get the best exit and the best entry speed, and it just kind of gives the car behind a chance to get close, and also it gives them some clean air on the nose instead of interrupting it. It does the complete opposite. And that is a lot of understeer, however, from Ian in through Chapel now, as he lost a lot of time, only 7 tenths between them, as the top two have both got very low ERS at the moment. But it's Brett that has 30%. Tice crucially not having as much, but still, the battle is definitely between Dan and Ian. Dan has the most ERS of anyone on the track right now, which is very useful to defend against Ian, and he'll need that in the race as well to attack if he does want to. Tice sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Brett not quite managing to replicate, only a 10th down, however, on his previous lap. But DRS has now been enabled. This is perfect for Ian, as he's going to have a great chance heading through the first corner now. Does lift much more than Dan did, and that's given Dan a little bit of breathing room going into the Wellington straight, which is where the first opportunity will be. Brett is within DRS of Tice, and he does have the DRS now. He is using the ERS to try and gain some time up behind Tice now. Will he gain any time in the straight? It looks like he will, because he just has simply more ERS to use. But Tice's setup does have better straight line speed naturally. So this is interesting between these two. Brett doesn't seem to have the pace, however, in the middle sector, crucially, which will give Tice a lot of breathing room going to the final section of the lap. The exit speeds for Tice as well, just getting the power down quicker with the less traction control. But Ian did not manage to quite get behind Tice, but somehow is managing to save ERS despite using it more than Dan. Quite strange through here. As yeah, Brett is using too much ERS trying to launch an attack on Tice. Tice should not worry about that at the moment. His concern is just saving his tyres and keeping Brett at arm's length, which he's doing a great job of at the moment. Dan managed to pick up some time on Ian now. Ian is losing a lot of time in this race on Dan, but I do believe a mistake is possible from Dan. So As unfortunately, Ian made a mistake early in the lap, I believe in the middle sector, and that's given Dan a lot of space, but Dan has been known to make mistakes throughout the weekend so far. But we shall see as Brett has closed the gap considerably to Tice now, is right behind him into the final sector, as he's been the quickest driver in the final sector, and he will get the fastest lap at this rate, I believe, unless this lap was pretty good from both of them. It is not the fastest lap, but it's very close as Brett now right behind Tice going into towards this DRS section. Already Ian has got back in within DRS for a second there, but Brett's a little bit too late going through the Vale chicane. Brett is really going wide through here, trying to gain time, but is not helping himself or his tyres in this attempt. As Tice has now gained more ERS than Brett, only a little bit though, only about 4% more, but that will make a big difference getting onto this straight. As a bad exit from Brett as well has not helped him very much, heading up behind Tice. He comes in, brakes quite early. He's very aggressive braking, really. You can tell the anti-lock brake's really helping him there. As the leaders are a second and a half at least faster than the guys behind them, so this is going to be very much a two-horse race today between Tice and Brett, and the strategy will be quite important as Brett has been known to do very aggressive undercuts in this series, which does not help him in the second half of the race, but with the safety car being a potential, I wouldn't say so much today, but at this track it has been known to be safety cars throughout the race. Last season there was a red flag in fact, but there were more people participating in last season's race. Only 4 drivers today, the least we've ever had since last season at Kota, where we had 4-way battle for the lead between Dan, Fabian, myself and Tice. Very interesting race there. But down here the DRS is enabled. He's using some ERS now. This is Brett's first chance to make a move maybe, heading on to the 5th lap of the race now. Into Stowe, he managed to bring the gap down to 0.4 of a second. It's very close between these two. Right onto the nose cam, which is very distracting. On board with Brett, he's right behind the back of Tice now. This is very interesting to watch. He did just miss the apex. Ian unfortunately making more mistakes now. He's made the gap 2.3 seconds between the two of them, but Dan has actually managed to keep a decent gap now to Brett, as he didn't lose too much time that lap, as Brett is trying his best to keep up with Tice and is actually managed to do a good job here. He's only 5/10 behind him. At this rate Brett will manage to make a lunge maybe into the next corner. We're right on board with him now. Will he manage to get a good move? This is very important to watch the onboard. He does get on the power early. That's a very good exit for Brett there, but he did lift for some reason on the exit of the corner, and that was a very strange moment there. Dan manages to take a decent line here, but it is Brett though that has the DRS right behind Tice. He will gain a lot of time here. He makes it 5/10 the gap, just under now. Very clean line from both drivers, but Tice always using the favourable lines through this section of the lap. This middle sector is where Tice is very strong and managed to gain most of his time through Magus and Beckes, but it is on the final sector where I'd say Brett has a little bit of an advantage. Let's go down the old pit straight now as we're on board with Brett once again, heading through here. This is an interesting section of lap. He does just trail the accelerator there as he heads through the corner, but Tice it is who leads the way so far and has led every single lap of this race so far. Ian gaining 0.4 of a second this lap so far, making that 3 as he loses a little bit of time through this section of lap. He just needs to bide his time. He has the pace to keep up with Dan, and in the strategy of the race I do believe he has a chance to get 3rd position and get his 2nd podium of the season. But Tice is leading the race with Brett in 2nd place. Brett taking a very aggressive line once again, but just not really helping himself. But it is on that straight where he gains all of his time, and this lap not quite as close to Tice. He needs to get a much cleaner line through this chicane, the Vale chicane. Maybe he'll be able to mount a challenge. He does. He gets a very good exit. 4/10, and Dan struggling on the entry of corners here, heading through the Vale chicane. Right, just get through, but it is a good final sector here. Ian just gaining a little bit of time through there though because of that mistake. But Brett, this is the closest Brett has been so far, going towards the Wellington straight. This could be a good chance for Brett to make a move on Tice. Will he get a good exit though? This is important. It's good enough. Will he manage to make a move stick here? Tice just keeping at arm's length with Brett in 2nd place. We look at this very strange camera now. The aerial camera above the track now is going into Brooklands. It's going to be a pretty good, interesting corner for Brett. He does take a very close line. This is good because this will give him a good line into the next corner through Luffield, through Brooklands onto the old pit straight. This is interesting. 9 seconds the gap between Brett and Dan now, but with battling coming up soon, I would assume that gap may come down as the race progresses. Dan still having a lot of ERS to deploy, even with Ian. I'd say Ian has been saving ERS the best, as Dan somehow managed to miss the apex at a flat out corner, as Tice there. I'm doing you dirty today, but Brett is right behind Tice, heading into here. This is the closest he's been so far through here. This is very important for Brett in this race. A huge run down the back straight. No ERS to use, but it is down the back straight. He's going to have a huge run going into Stowe corner. He goes, looks to the inside for just a second, hesitates a little bit on the way in, and he's only under 0.2 of a second behind Tice as he heads out the corner. A very good exit there for Stowe as well, and this will give him a huge opportunity to capitalize from any mistakes that Tice makes, who is struggling now with the pressure of Brett in this race. As every single lap Brett just gets a little bit closer going down the hanger straight, and just not comfortable through Stowe whatsoever. And Ian and Dan looking like they maybe having tire problems, Ian more so, but those drivers both having a lot of ERS. Dan is, again, the driver with the most ERS today. Brett's exit speed just isn't as good as Ty's, but that is a much tighter line. Wasn't quite as good the same exit as Ty's there. That was not very good English. As he heads down the back straight, the DRS is deployed with the ERS as well. It doesn't have enough ERS to mount a challenge yet, as Ty's has literally just been saving this entire race. Very smart driving from Ty's. He has no pressure to worry about. He's on 40% ERS, way more than Brett at the moment. This is making it difficult for Brett to make a move, as the more Ty saves ERS, the more ERS will be in his battery, which even just having it is enough to defend in this race. Using it will be even more effective than Brett not having any whatsoever. He's just using too much ERS trying to get ahead, similar to what I would do in the situation, to be fair, but not the best strategy to use at this race. He just doesn't seem to have the pace anyway, though, so Tice is keeping him at arm's length. I believe strategy is where Brett is going to have the best opportunity today to make something work. Once again, he's very close coming out of Chapel. He's going to use just enough ERS. He is coming up close to the back of Tice now. This is very close now. If he makes a move here, he might do it. He's just going to try it. Down the inside goes Brett going into Stowe. That was very aggressive. Tice gives him plenty of space, runs off the track. Brett will make a dive bomb, I assume, down here. Yes, he does. He looks to the inside, but that's just going to compromise line. But Tice goes in deep. Off goes Tice, through goes Brett. I'm joking. But no, Brett does almost manage to make that stick. Somehow manages to lose time in a straight line when he wasn't even lifting. As Ian uses profanity, and in the eyes of God, that is not very good. That is a sin. Regardless, Brett is right behind Tice. Again, this is the closest he's been, but just through these corners, Tice just has the better speed. Brett thinks taking a tighter line will help, but no, he needs to get a straighter exit. If anything, he's compromising his line through there. He's not driving very smartly at the moment. He's getting put under pressure. He just needs to keep the car close to the back of Tice, and he'll have a great opportunity to make a move going into Stowe, which is definitely his best opportunity to make a move. But that's the thing. Even if he makes a move, Tice has the ERS to come back at him, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Brett needs to somehow keep within DRS without using any ERS and saving like Tice is doing, but Tice has the upper hand, being in the lead at the moment. Has so much more ERS, it's just not even fair. It's quite interesting though as they head down here.
Losing lots of time to Ian.
The Ian has gained a lot of time. It's like 5/10 in one lap already today. That's very good, but Brett has the very close opportunity now. Tice runs a bit wide and doesn't get the best exit, but I think that should be enough to keep him at arm's length anyway. But Brett, knowing him, will make a move here. He has a huge slipstream going down the back straight. This is his best opportunity yet. Even better than last lap, I'd say, to make a move down the inside. He uses all the grass even, but this time Tice, keeping a tighter line, will have a better exit this time. And I think that means he will manage to keep him behind him for one more lap. But even if he does, as I said before, Tice has the ERS advantage, and this will be very pivotal in this race for him to win this Grand Prix, and I believe he will at this rate. But Brett just needs a little bit of luck maybe to make a move on Tice. But even if he makes a mistake, Tice has the pace and the ERS to make a move on him. And heading through here, very good first corner actually from Brett. He gained a 10th. And a very good clean corner as well. He's managing to drive a little bit smarter now through this first sector. There it is. That's the line he needs to take. A straight line on the exit. This is his best opportunity. Yeah, he did gain a little bit of time, but with the traction control, the car is compromised on the exit. And Ian is closing in rapidly on down as we speak. He's gained a lot of time in the last lap, but didn't quite have the cleanest line through there. So look at the leader. Brett did manage to gain a little bit of time, but again, Tice saving ERS. He's gained a 15% in the previous lap. That is pivotal in this race. So Tice on the exit with slightly better exit. He's not using any ERS. There's literally no reason to. He's just saving ERS. He has the pace, as he knows. Ian manages to keep that gap around 1.5 seconds. Dan just needs to bide his time and keep him behind. Any mistakes will be costly for him. As he heads down here, Brett into Max and Beckett. Will he keep closer this time than he has done on previous laps? Even if he gets alongside, Tice just has the advantage here, and it will just absolutely pay off in the end of this race. Tice is a smart racer. His ERS saving and pace is enough to keep everyone behind him, and that is how he wins races so often in this league.
I'm telling you, Tice is gonna win every single race this season.
Yeah, this race is very likely that Tice will win a lot of races. Brett goes in deep, and that's very costly for him as he goes and has to use a lot of the curve to get on a good exit, but not enough of an exit to make a move here. And once again, Ian is gaining time. We're getting ever closer to that 1 second, that crucial 1 second to get within DRS. A very good Stowe as well. He's very good in the last two sectors here. Ian has been gaining a lot of time, and again, Dan runs wide, and he's now in the DRS again. Only 7/10 behind him. The closest battle now is between Ian and Dan. Dan went incredibly wide through the final corner and the final part of the Vale chicane. Heading into Abbey now. A little bit of a lift there from Ian, but again, not losing too much time. This is very close now. The battle for third place intensifying once again, as Ian has managed to bridge a gap that was once 2.5 seconds down to 6/10 heading into this DRS zone, and with the ERS as well. Maybe we'll be able to mount a challenge. I don't think he should use too much, because that will cost him down the straight. He does, as I say that, underplays ERS. And Brett this time not as close to the battle now. So the battle looks like it's going to be between Ian and Dan at the moment then. Who has got the most ERS in this battle? It's pretty even between the two of them, looking around about 70%. Ian manages to take some better lines through here. You'll see the exit speed. Again, Dan running wide. It'll give him a better exit speed, but just in the middle of the corner. Ian's managed to close up so much without any dirty air disturbing the nose of that car. Tice is in such a good position to win this race now. Brett needs an incredibly aggressive strategy, and even if he used it, Tice can just deploy half of his ERS and that'll be enough to keep him at arm's length, even with the new tyres. So Brett just needs to stay close. That's as good as he can do at the moment, but he just also needs to save ERS. Ian not quite as good through Magnussen Beckett's here on this lap, but he has the DRS, and that is crucial. With the ERS as well, it'll be much more powerful than the DRS that Brett has been getting here, but Brett is very close this lap now to the back of Tice, and heading out of the Vale chicane is the final corner. Through ambulance again. It's interesting, this race at the moment. So the closest battle at the moment is Ian to Dan, but Ian braking later will manage to get him through. Will Dan have a tighter line? He does. Ian gets in the power so much earlier than Dan. That is so crucial on the exit of these corners. Dan running a little bit wider through the final corner. That is fine. As he heads through here now, Brett will gain time, a huge amount of time in the straight. Not quite enough though. As Ian almost having a moment there through the first couple corners. Ian though managing to stay close to Dan as they head through here now. Brett getting within half a second. If he can get within half a second with the little ERS he has, that means that, oh, he had a terrible exit there though through Brooklands. On board with Ian once again. Will he use some ERS on the exit? He does. That's very smart from him, just giving him enough of a boost down the straight to get a better exit and then get the overspeed quicker, but doesn't get enough of a straight line speed through there. Dan, however, is being put under pressure. He's using more ERS than Ian is. This is crucial for this race. Ian now has the most ERS of anyone, besides Tice, of course. Of the two of them, he has the most ERS. Tice on 90% ERS. He's managed to really bring that ERS back up, not using any deployment whatsoever, as Brett is massively over deploying in this race. Tice has a massive advantage now, as you can see, because Brett just can't get close enough in this race. He hasn't got the ERS to make a move. He's just losing time, killing the tyres in this dirty air, but he is keeping the DRS to keep him within 1 second. But in the second half of this race, I believe that the advantage will swing towards Tice. Oh, and Brett does do that. I was just thinking that Brett might have tried an undercut here. He does, and that is his one opportunity to win this race. But Tice, if he's smart, will use the ERS this lap on just to try and gain the time on this outlap for Brett. This will be important. When Tice decides to pit, he will have the better pace anyway. If you can just string together a good lap. What's this pit stop looking like here for Brett? It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very close in the pit lane between the two of them. What is Ian going to manage to do here? Right behind the nose of Dan. This is interesting now.
Go!
Oh, and Ian gets a good pit stop, and it's going to be very close, but no, it's Dan that still stays ahead. But on the exit of the pit lane, this is going to be very crucial for this race. Brett comes out the pit lane, crosses the white line, but that is allowed in this league. Ian is so close to the back of Dan as they head through the pit lane. Coming to the pit lane exit now. This is going to be crucial for this Grand Prix. On the pit exit, he does manage to get out right behind Dan. We're on board with him once again, I believe, or if we can, not quite yet. Brett heading down here. He's lost time to Brett this lap, who has used some ERS to try and bridge the gap a little bit. And it's so close between these guys for third place. Any mistake from either driver will be very costly in this battle. But as he comes out the pit lane, a little bit wide again for Dan, but that'll give him a better exit speed. And he has got the better exit speed. It always seems like the car in front has the advantage through that corner because of the lack of dirty air. But weaving on the straight isn't going to help Dan here. Trying to get temperature in the tyres. He doesn't need to. And here comes Ian down the inside. Doesn't manage to make a move. Ian doesn't quite get the move. Somehow Dan managed to wrap around the outside. Ian just again goes to the inside now. Keeps a tighter line. Dan makes it, gives him the space. He could have just shut the door on him there, but that would have been a little bit impatient of him, but heading towards cups. These are critical corners for this Grand Prix. Not quite close enough for that to happen. But Dan keeps the position again in third place. This is a very fascinating battle between these two. But now it's Dan that has more ERS than Ian, who has been using a little bit of deployment on the exit of the pit lane to try and make a move here. But yeah, once again though, and Tice pits crucially in this Grand Prix. Will this be a good pit stop? If it's not a good stop, this will be bad for Tice here. Brett coming on the pit straight. This is very crucial. Tice has already made his pit stop. Where is he going to come out though? This is important. Brett is now coming down the main straight. Who's it going to be? Ian's very close to the back of Dan here. And Tice comes out just in front of Tice, but this is a good opportunity. It is. Brett goes round the outside. We're on forward with it now. Around the outside goes Brett. He makes a move stick around the outside. Brett makes the move for the race lead. Down the inside he goes. The undercut worked for Brett, but it's going to be Tice with a huge advantage with the extra ERS down this straight. We're on board with Tice now as he comes down the straight. It's not even fair. As on the exit of the corner, there's contact, and Brett has a huge impact with the wall. And there's a huge crash, and Brett is out of the race. A crazy moment.
Red flag.
Unbelievable. Red flag is out. Unbelievable scenes.
Flag. Red flag.
Unbelievable. As Brett steers across the track and crashes on the back straight and out of the race as the red flag is out. The rear right tyre off the car and the safety car is deployed. But it is a red flag. My goodness, what incredible scenes here. That means Brett will restart in the red flag. Red flag is out halfway through the race. Unbelievable first half. Did not expect that to happen as the battle between Ian and Dan was intensifying. The battle for the lead was more intense, and Brett's over-aggressive defense once again being his Achilles heel, if you will. Down the straight as Tice ends this now as the red flag is out. The cars will come back to the pit lane. A huge collision as Verstappen goes into the wall. Leclerc now leads the British Grand Prix.
The bitch Grand Prix.
And Ian somehow having the goofiest crash I've ever seen. And a huge impact for Danny as he goes onto his side. And that is the end of the first half of the race. The red flag is out.